Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Melanie Corwin. I'm the technical product manager of the unified platform here at Vibrant. I have many updates I want to share with y'all. Talking first through the current state of the unified platform. So on Tuesday, August 1st, this week, we migrated 10 centers, 10 chat and text centers onto the unified platform. That means we have a total of 18 centers currently operating on the platform um, across voice and chat and text. We are we were able to expand our national backup capacity as well as our Spanish chat and text capacity. And we also have LGBTQ services. So all of those things are set up. So as we continue migrating groups, we'll be able to migrate with a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more ease of process here. So very, very excited about that and thrilled for, I know many folks on the call have assisted with that or were part of the migration. And thank you so much for all of your work moving into this process. We're really excited to have you on the platform. I want to go over a little bit. I know we often get questions about what the migration process looks like and what you can expect. So this was our first truly large cohort. So we've learned a lot of lessons and we're really excited to uh, fold those learnings into future migrations. But basically the overview of migration is that we will look at the operations or current state of the centers within our network. We'll put them into cohorts so that we can migrate groups that have similar needs. And we are aiming to schedule those cohorts out every 2 months. And then we'll notify you when your center has been placed in a cohort. And if you are the upcoming cohort, we'll notify you of your migration date. So we're adding a little bit of more lead time to that planning process so that we're able to work with each center and make sure that you have all of the resources you need to be able to migrate. If there's anything in our process that we learn when we're working with you that doesn't quite work well with how we're approaching things, we'll make sure that we're taking the time to tailor our process or make sure that your operations are supported as we move through kind of the checklist of items that we need to cover before moving on to the platform. So that information is coming and I'd love your feedback and your input as we develop it. We're always learning and we're always folding in lessons learned into each new process. So getting better every time. A couple items on the roadmap I wanted to share. So to give a high level overview of how we've been referring to our release structure and how we build out and develop the unified platform. Release 1 was a little bit before my time, but that is when we built out the voice tools within the unified platform and migrated our first pilot groups for voice onto the platform. Our second effort, Release 2, was building out chat and text that supported English speaking help seekers. Release 3 was building out Spanish capabilities, so Spanish chat and text specifically for the help seeker, that help seeker side. So as somebody enters or reaches out to receive service from 988, they can do so in Spanish and they have support through that process. Release 4 is what we're currently working on. And so I'm really excited about Release 4 because it's probably the first time that we're able to really develop the platform based on what our users that are currently on the platform need, as well as feedback from this group here, as well as conversations that we've had with states and with centers about what they're looking for long-term. So the last 3 releases were really kind of standing up the foundational elements of the platform. And now we're moving into developing based on what the folks who are using the platform and the folks who want to use the platform would really benefit from. So some items on the roadmap are improving our follow-up process by allowing for outbound SMS follow-up, so you could text a follow-up out. Other ones are building out keyword routing for LGBTQ services. So the ability to text in a keyword as opposed to going through a triage question, which reduces the amount of time somebody's waiting to get connected to service. So really keeping a very help seeker centered focus there on that project. Another one is enhancing our resource database. We've heard from many folks that they need a slightly different structure, or they have resource databases that they've been building out for years that are really effective for them. So how can we make a database in the unified platform that works with what centers are currently using? And then the last is the extended package, which I know we talk about a lot in the Q&A section. The extended package is basically how, building out a structure for the unified platform in which your centers can leverage our universal contact record, be able to leverage some of our telephony services so we can see and you can see consistent data around what calls or texts have been offered to you, which has been answered, et cetera. And we're building out just the primary goal being able to support centers that have multiple different lines or different state requirements for answering different services, and how can our platform support those operations and not detract from them. So that's the extended package. We have an overview of kind of what the elements of that extended package look like. It's in the folder where you can find all of the Q&As from the webinar, as well as the demos. So a slide that shows kind of the basics and the details of the extended package are in there, and happy to link that at any point. My last item before I get into our demonstration that was requested is we have a new vice president of the unified platform. So really thrilled to be expanding our team that's focusing on and building out the unified platform. Their name is Gordon Rubin. They're here with us today, but it is, I think, literally their first week with us. So wanted to share with this group that we have a very exciting new hire. And the next time we get into this webinar, we'll have Gordon give a more thorough introduction and talk more about their background. So welcome, Gordon. Very excited to have you here. Last item that I'll cover, we're moving into our demonstration. So we've been using the post-webinar survey to get feedback about how informative this process has been, what folks are looking for. And one of the top items that has been requested for a demonstration is follow-ups. How do we document follow-ups within the unified platform? What does it look like? Who can see the elements of a follow-up? So I've put together a quick demonstration on what's currently available in the platform. We know many centers have slightly different operations and ways of approaching follow-ups. So don't worry, we're just covering what you're able to do within the platform. And as we build out our migration schedule, we're happy to work one-on-one with centers to make sure that we're supporting your operations. These are just tools that you can use. And if you have any questions about clinical policy around follow-ups, you can reach out to STP, so ask stp@vibrant.org, to ask any questions about the clinical policy. They're going to have the most up-to-date information and much more comprehensive information than I do. So, all right. I will share my screen now to move into our demo. And as always, feel free to drop questions in the chat. I'm going to start playing the demo, and just let me know if you can hear the sound. Corwin, and I am the technical product manager here at Vibrant for the unified platform. In today's demonstration, we will be walking through how to document a follow-up case. We'll be talking through all of the features that are available for follow-ups, as well as documentation features and capabilities that are currently in the platform. I'll talk a little bit about what we have on the roadmap when it comes to follow-ups, but we're really going to be focusing on the technical capabilities of the platform itself. We know every center is structured slightly differently and completes their follow-ups or conducts their follow-ups differently. And so if you have any questions about the policy or the clinical approach to follow-ups, please reach out to Standards Training and Practices. Usually you can reach them at askstp@vibrant.org. And that would be for questions about any clinical guidelines or follow-up policy. This demonstration is just going to be focused on what the platform can do if and when you choose to join. All right, so with that covered, I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of my screen and what you're seeing here. Currently, I am starting from the place of having taken and documented a case. So on my screen right now, you'll see that I'm in the case record. I've minimized my open interactions, I've minimized my conversation, and I am no longer on queue, and I'm not receiving conversations. You can see the indicators that I am not on queue. If you look down at the bottom left corner here, my status is marked as available, which means I will not be receiving incoming conversations. And then you can see the window behind the case record. This shows that I am connected to my CTI. So if I wanted to change my status and go on queue, I'm capable of doing that. We're starting from the case record. We want to make sure our phone tool, our CTI, is active and connected because we will be going through how to conduct that outbound call. So currently in the unified platform, we have the ability to document follow-ups, assign them to other agents within your center. You can see your follow-ups that are assigned to you when we get to the homepage. And we're able to complete follow-ups by doing an outbound voice call. So we would document the phone number and then be able to call out to that individual with their consent. So starting from that assumption, how do we schedule a follow-up? We'll scroll down the case record. I've already completed our incoming information about whether or not this is a transactional call or conversation, that it's not a third-party conversation. I've gone through our prompt questions, our demographics, veteran-related information, presenting concerns, and homicidal ideation screening. Below all of that information is where you would document your consent to follow-up. So you can see in the center of my screen here, this section is all about the follow-ups. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to say that a follow-up is required. So yes. And did I offer a follow-up? Yes. When these two boxes are checked, a third one will appear that says, would it be okay for us to contact you? When we get consent to follow up with that individual, so yes, you'll see a prompt here after saving. Click the Save Contact Information button to save. Please scroll down to view the section related to capturing follow-up details. So once we've documented our consent to follow-up, we can save this information down at the bottom right here, and a new window will appear with our follow-up case. Salesforce automatically takes us to those follow-up details. So all you need to do is save those 3 questions, and you're prompted to fill out information about the actual follow-up when it should be scheduled. So starting at the top, we would input the contact's phone number. We'd mark if it's a cell phone, home phone, or office. There's the option to include email, the option to document what days or times are best for the contact, as well as times of day. I'm just going to check a couple of these. You can capture the preferred language of the contact, pronouns, as well as details about whether or not you can leave a voicemail or a message on their answering machine or speak to a third party. I'm going to say, to show you the different options, say yes. So if you have an answering machine or voicemail on this phone, you can choose whether or not the contact has allowed or consented to leaving a message. If they've chosen to leave that they're okay with a detailed message, you'll be prompted to fill out more details about what the message should include. Similar thing below, if somebody else answers when we conduct that outbound call, is it okay for us to talk with them? I'm going to say, for the purposes of this demonstration, yes. Same options as above, whether or not we can leave a message. If you choose a detailed message, you're prompted to include more details. A note about these questions specifically: none of these questions are required because we understand that it's possible for a contact to disconnect, or we may not be able to gather all of this information. So they're not required to save the case or submit the case. However, in order for a follow-up to be scheduled, we do need at least a phone number, so method of contacting that person, and the information below, which is a date and time or an approximate date and time. I'm going to place our date and time. It can be a range as well. So it doesn't need to be a specific time, but it can also be a range of time. Place it for today through Sunday. In this section, you can include follow-up notes. If you were, for whatever reason, disconnected from the person or additional information couldn't be gathered about when you could contact them for the follow-up, you can also mark that you were not able to schedule the follow-up. To summarize this section of the case record, after you've completed the consent to follow-up questions, which were those 3 questions we started with, you save that information and you're prompted to fill out details about the contact, when we can reach out to them, and what we should do if we receive their voicemail or a third party to talk with. So we can save all of this information. When I save the follow-up, a new follow-up record will be created and assigned by default to me. We can change that though. All right, so you can see I've saved this follow-up case. It shows up as this little box here with our follow-up events case 1. You can see the specific follow-up. It's just called follow-up in this menu bar. And when I hover over the actual case, my phone number, so the person I'm supposed to be calling shows up here. You can see that it is currently scheduled. So it has not been, nobody has attempted to make this call. It hasn't been completed yet. And you can see the range of time for when it's been scheduled. All right, so once we get to the follow-up event page, you can see that I have a number of tabs that I'm working on at the top here. You can tell that my follow-up is associated with this case because it's opened as a sub-tab within the case I'm working on. This is important just for staying organized. If you're ever unsure what case your follow-up is associated with, it'll be linked in the center of my screen. You can see the linked case here, and it's connected on the left-hand side here to show that I've been working on that case. This page just shows the details. The main screen shows the details of the follow-up that we scheduled. So the time frame in which we could make this call, the phone number of the individual that we would be reaching out to, the case it's associated with, the current person that it's been assigned to. So the person it's been assigned to is labeled as the owner. Below that, we can see that this follow-up has been scheduled. Once we make an attempt to complete that follow-up, we have the option to include details about when it was attempted and what occurred. And below, you can just see different information about when the case was created and when it was last modified. On the right-hand side, when we start to conduct that follow-up, so when we make that outreach, we can begin documenting if the contact answered the conversation. If they did, we'll be prompted to fill out more information about the details of that conversation, which I'll show you in just a moment. Below that, we have information about the call itself. So that information about the best time to call, the preferred language, whether or not we can leave a message or talk to another person, and any other notes that we took in that original case record when we were scheduling the follow-up. If you would like to change the owner of a follow-up, you can come up to the right-hand side of your screen, just below where that case is that I'm working on, and you select Change Owner. This will allow you to search the individuals in your organization that you could assign this follow-up to. And once it's assigned, you can have the option to send that person a notification email. So an additional, an email to show them that they've been assigned the case. We've received questions about whether or not we can set up alerts for when a follow-up is due. And currently we're not able to do that. We're not able to provide like alerts for when you're getting closer to an assigned follow-up needing to be completed, but you can push out this notification when you've been assigned a follow-up. Click cancel. All right, so I'm going to show you what it looks like when you make this follow-up call. In order to complete the call, make sure you're connected to your CTI in your phone. This is evident when you have the little window, the Genesys Cloud window open. I'm able to see when I open my CTI on this left-hand side, my current status is available. I can select the downward icon and you can see my phone is active. To place the call, all I need to do is select the phone number and you'll see my CTI pops up and shows that it's dialing. When I answer this call, the number that I see on my phone when I'm conducting this outbound call is the 1-800 number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. So it's not for the individual center that you're calling from. I'm going to answer the call and mute myself to prevent an echo. But typically you would not mute the conversation, but I'm doing it for the purposes of this demo so we don't get an echoing sound. So once this call is connected, I can document the conversation as it takes place. It stays open in this left-hand side of my screen, but I have the option to minimize it as well. I'll come back over to the right-hand side of my screen in this upper right corner to document that yes, the contact has answered the call. We'll say yes, the contact is available to talk. And because we're going into a transactional conversation, we'll generate a follow-up case, which has the same information as your case record. So we select save, that the contact is able to have a conversation with us. You'll see the case record opens. You have at the top of your screen, which is slightly different than the original case record, is case assessments for the original call and safety plans for the original call. So if you were on a chat and text, conducted a safety assessment, scheduled a follow-up, and then completed that follow-up and opened a case record, all of the information about that previous risk level or the safety plans, coping skills, anything that original conversation documented in those assessments would be carried over to your new case as an option to reference during your conversation. The case record that I was working on, I didn't complete those case assessments or safety plans because it's just a demonstration. So you see that mine has 0. Scrolling down to show you the contact record and what it looks like here. Automatically, this conversation is identified as transactional and not a third-party call. These are documented because in our previous window, we already identified that the contact was available to talk with us directly. Moving down, everything else is the same as the original case. You can go through your prompt questions, which are required, and all contact details from the original case are automatically carried over into the contact record. This is just to save time where we are making the assumption that all this information stays the same, but you're able to edit it. You can change the information in the record if you needed to, if something has changed with that contact the next time you reach out to them. Scrolling all the way down, you can see demographic information has carried over, veteran information is carried over, and that's where that information, the carrying over kind of stops. We look at this presenting issue and secondary issue section. This is based on the current conversation that you're having in the follow-up. You have the option to schedule another one, which would continue to be linked to this case and pull over the original case information every time it's scheduled so that you have a record and a history of what's going on with that individual when you reach out to them. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm not going to schedule another one within this call. And instead, I'm going to disconnect the conversation. So you'll notice I did not have to be on cue in order to make this outbound call. And when I'm ready to disconnect the conversation, I'll come to my CTI, so this little window that says Genesys Cloud, where my screen shows I'm connected to the contact. Come to the phone icon on the right. You hover over it, it says disconnect. I'll select disconnect, and you'll see that there's no wrap-up code for this particular case. We've chosen to disconnect the follow-up. We have a lot of the information that we need already carried over, and we can just move through the process of saving our case record information and save it here. Oops. All right. Some other information that might be helpful to cover is if you are looking for a follow-up and how it's been assigned, you can come all the way up to the top of your left-hand side of your screen. So right where it says Service Console, to the right, this is our menu bar for all the different options within the unified platform. I can open this up by selecting the downward arrow, and I can move to follow-up events. And I can see all of my recently viewed follow-ups. I can also look at all follow-ups that have not been completed, all follow-ups that have been assigned to me, follow-ups that have been assigned to me that have not been completed, follow-ups specifically for today that have not been completed, and then I have, because I'm in the testing environment, I have some other views that may not be consistent across the entire platform in production. If I go to all follow-up events, you can see every case that's been scheduled and all of the test cases. If you come to the right, you can see the status, whether it's been attempted, completed, or scheduled, and who the owner is. The last thing I want to cover when it comes to follow-ups is if I come back to my original case, so I'm going all the way to that corner, the top corner on the right-hand side of my screen, I come all the way back to my original case, coming over to the left-hand side of my screen, that originally documented case. I go into the follow-up here. You can see, because I completed that call, I selected the phone number, I was connected to the individual and documented this event. Automatically, the details around my follow-up have changed. So this attempted time, the status, and then this is the record that's now associated with the follow-up case. This is the one I was just filling out. So if you come all the way over to the right here, you can see where we previously had the option to mark if the contact was available to talk. It now says that this follow-up has been completed. And that is the overview for how to complete a follow-up in the unified platform. As I mentioned at the beginning, we know that every center has slightly different structures for how they conduct follow-ups. Currently in the unified platform, we have the ability, if you're on chat and text, you have the ability to complete an outbound call as a follow-up within the platform itself, using all of the tools that I just shared. These features are also obviously available to our voice centers that join the platform as well. If you have questions about the policies, like the clinical approach to follow-ups or Vibrant's approach to follow-ups and guidelines around how to complete them, reach out to the standards and training and practice team to get some information about the actual policy. But within the platform itself, you're able to conduct all of that, all of those activities all in one. And thank you so much for viewing this demo. All right, y'all, I'm back. Thanks so much.
All righty. Thank you, Melanie, for this demonstration. We have some questions in the chat, so I'll just rattle these off. If you are able to answer them, that'd be great. If not, a member of the team. Okay, let's see. So from Meryl, she asks, looks like the whole network will be working together on follow-up. Am I understanding that correctly?
When you say whole network, do you mean can other centers see your follow-up activities? Currently, no, it's just center-based. So you can only see what's going on at your center.
All right. Next question. Does this platform allow for outbound text messages follow-up? The phone-based follow-ups are not always possible for counselors who are deaf, hard of hearing, etc.
Yes, so that is in our next release. Very excited about release 4. That will include outbound SMS for follow-up, so outbound text. We're currently in the testing phase for that. So development work has been done, and we're just testing and kind of cleaning up the process for doing that, what it looks like in the platform. So very much on the horizon.
Right. Is there a way for someone other than the owner to assign to a different staff?
Yes, supervisors have the ability to assign follow-ups to other people, and I believe counselors do as well.
Okay.
Sorry, can
Oh,
I have a
go.
follow-up on that one? Sorry about that. This is Dina from Carolyn. We are trying to figure out really heavily on how from the supervisor view to do that, and we cannot find a way to do that. So I don't know if there's a different time that can be pointed out, or that would be great.
Yeah, so supervisors are provisioned both the counselor view and the supervisor dashboard. So in their Okta view, you should have both tiles to be able to log in, and they can access the crisis counselor view, but with supervisor permissions. So that's how they're able to do that.
Oh, so we go into the counselor view, and then we can have access to the follow-ups and then give it to somebody else. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So can centers join the platform strictly as chat text before potentially transitioning to calls as well?
Just to make sure, I'll recap and let me know if I'm answering your question. Chat text centers currently are able to migrate over to the platform, and we have majority chat text centers on the platform currently. They're completing their follow-ups using outbound voice. And in release 4, we'll be releasing the ability to do outbound text as a follow-up. So those folks who are already on the platform will be trained up on how to do that. And it'll just be pushed to their current instance of the platform and be able to do it from there. Does that answer the question?
Hi, yeah, this is Kevin. I was the one who asked this. I was asking more as just in general for the unified platform. So we're a very large center. We have not made any sort of transition to it. We currently use chat and text software through the old system, if you will. So it was less focused on follow-up and more just in general. If we were to make this transition, can we start with chat and text just strictly?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we've been migrating by modality. So if your center has 2 or multiple different modalities, we can take that one at a time. So
Okay,
absolutely.
perfect. Thank you.
All right. From Tyler, what would deaf counselors be expected to do in the meantime, or would the platform not be made accessible until the texting piece is available?
So in the meantime, say deaf counselors be expected to do in the meantime, or would the platform not be made accessible? So if your center is primarily for folks who are deaf or hard of hearing and unable to do a voice follow-up, currently the only option for follow-up within our platform is voice, but with SMS in this next release is when it would be more accessible. Yeah.
Are we still looking at September for total migration for national backup and LGBTQIA plus youth?
Jamie, are we talking about the entire subnetwork moving to the unified platform in September? I would need to talk with our operations team. So when we migrate groups, particularly, and chat and text, we need to be mindful of the volume distribution across our legacy system in Pure Connect, and then the volume coming into the unified platform. So we need to make sure that we have the appropriate state and national backup capacity to support the entire LGBTQ subnetwork and moving over. So that's a question that we can work out with operations about the timing and the most effective way to do that specifically. But it is something we're focusing on, and we are prioritizing questions like that. Awesome, you're ready when we are. Fantastic. I see so go ahead.
Will there be a way to capture information from outreach calls to individuals who didn't reach us directly, someone else called in concerned about them with this platform?
I will answer this question, and then I think I see one above as well, so I'll get to you, Tyler. Let me just reread. Will there be a way to capture information for outreach calls to individuals who didn't reach out to us directly in this platform? There is an ability to conduct an outbound like safety and support conversation. So if you're to reach out to an individual, you're able to document the conversation and the activity that took place. If you are talking about conducting an outbound conversation without it being tied to an incoming one, I would just need to double check before I give you an answer. I want to be able to test that out myself and just make sure I give you the correct information. Does that sound good, Emma? Okay, awesome. Just confirm before I give an answer. Tyler, I see your question. So we have the option not to migrate to our center to the unified platform until the text follow-up option is available. Phone-based follow-ups are physically not possible for many of our counselors. Just want to make sure. Yes, absolutely. I think this is an excellent point. Thank you so much for raising it. Yes, our cohort migration. So we would notify when a group is added to a cohort. And we would notify you of when that date is scheduled for, so your specific cohort date, and when we would plan to migrate you to the platform. Of course, we know every center there's always lots of things going on, lots of things to consider as we make that change. And so we would work with you one-on-one if there was any reason that the timing didn't work out for you, and make sure that that's appropriate. So Tyler, thinking about your center, as we look at what cohort you'd end up being scheduled as, making sure outbound text is available for follow-ups is a priority then for making sure that you get into the right cohort. Yeah, absolutely. Can we get a copy of the follow-up training video? Yes, I've uploaded a copy of this into our demos folder, which is, I believe I can grab the link for that. It's in the same overarching folder as all of our unified platform training. In that demo folder, we also have the demonstration for how to conduct a text, and we also have a demonstration of what it looks like from the Pure Connect side when an individual who speaks Spanish is transferred into the Spanish subnetwork, so we can get a good 360 view of what that experience looks like. So happy to link that demo folder here. Sweet. Appreciate you calling it fabulous. Morgan, I see your question. Do we need to sign up to be added to a list of centers waiting to be placed in a migration cohort? For chat and text, we've already started grouping cohorts. We need to reconfigure them as volume shifts and as we launch subnetworks. So we're always shifting those cohorts until we are close to migration day. So cohorts for chat and text have already started to be established and configured. For voice, yes, in a sense, signing up, we'll send out an assessment where we're going to ask mostly about your operations. It's really important to us that as we migrate groups over, we're not disrupting operations and that we make sure we get you onto the unified platform in a way that supports the work that you're doing. So we have a couple of questions in that assessment, for example, of how shift times are structured, what platforms you're currently using. Same with, we've had many questions about how follow-ups are structured and what's needed in follow-ups. So we'll ask questions about your operations there. And once we have that information, that's where we'll start to build out voice cohorts and building those cohorts around centers that have similar needs, since the volume consideration is not as necessary as it is with chat text. We're able to be a little bit more strategic in how we move those voice cohorts over. The reason we're also doing it that way is that we can streamline our training process for y'all as well. We can make sure that centers that have similar needs are getting the appropriate training instead of having multiple sessions that may not always be applicable. What kind of timeline is there to join a voice cohort? So we're currently migrating over chat and text. Our next group will be in like roughly 2 months. And then the 2 months following is when we'll start putting together our voice cohorts and a mix of incoming centers for that are joining 988. So you should be getting notice at minimum 2 months before any kind of cohort or migration date is scheduled. So keep an eye out for that this fall. Morgan, yes, we are migrating chat and text. We're migrating by modality. So we would move over our chat text folks and then voice. If you would like, I'm happy to touch base with you offline about kind of how your center is structured. We know that every group is slightly different and has slightly different needs. So I'm happy to talk with you more about kind of what that process might look like for your center in particular. Lorraine asks, who specifically would we speak to understand the timeline for voice? Annual phone bills due dates may come into play for some centers. Yes, that is an excellent question. And that is also something we have included in our readiness assessment. It's just asking, what do you have on the horizon for the next 6 months that may contribute or make migration challenging? So I think just generally best way to get more information is our center engagement managers are being equipped with all the tools and resources they need to be able to speak to timelines around migration. We're building out an FAQ, so frequently asked questions portal within Vibrant, so everyone would be equipped to answer questions about what's going on with the platform that way. So when you do get in contact with someone, they're able to point you in the right direction or provide an answer. But then I'm also happy to speak with you one-on-one and talk through the timing, the timelines, because as we put together cohorts, we want to make sure that it is most supportive of what you're doing and what you have on the horizon. is it possible to set multiple reminders for follow-up? So currently the only method of notifying someone for a follow-up is during that process of assigning it to them. That would send out an email notification that shows that you've been assigned a follow-up and the ability to go access that follow-up case. But for ongoing reminders about when a follow-up may be due, currently we don't have that in place, but I do really like that feature as something that we could build in to future releases. As supervisors, would we have the ability to see our whole team's activities and statuses in one desktop view, or would we have to individually go to each active counselor's status? If you're looking for your crisis counselors, just if they're interacting with someone or if they're away or if they're in a conversation or wrapping up a conversation, you should be able to see that through the supervisor dashboard's supervisor view. That'll show a list of your counselors, the interactions that they're currently in or not in, their status. You can open up and look at you have the option to monitor or provide coaching to specific conversations that are going on from that supervisor view. And so that's where you would find all of the information about what's going on with your crisis counselors. If you want to look at interactions or different volume coming in through your queue, you would go to the performance workspace. So there's kind of those two places you check on your crisis counselors in one view, and you could check on specific volume and interactions coming in on a different page. I know we're coming close to the end of time, and I want to keep answering questions. I also just want to throw in the chat a link to our post-migration survey form. I've been using this to inform what we do for demonstrations. Usually I only have the ability, you see that the demonstrations can take about 20 minutes, so we'll do one per session, but I'll take the most requested one and film something for y'all so that we can view it each time. So I just want to drop this in the chat. Please fill this out. Let me know what's working, what's not working. We're always learning and really want this to be a space that's useful and informative to the group. So please take the time to look. Thanks.
Alrighty, thank you to Melanie for fielding all of these questions, and thank you as well for dropping the survey for all of you. I encourage you to fill out, and I think we will wrap this up. We're at the top of the hour. So if folks have any questions or feedback regarding what we've presented today, feel free to use the link that Melanie has shared, or you can reach out to us at communications@vibrant.org for any other questions that you may have. I hope you all have a great Friday, and thank you all so much for your time today.